fact, I had a popular commentator 4 weeks ago that I talked to that told me flat out, before they knew any of the contents of the bill, if you try to move a bill that solves the border crisis during this presidential year, I will do whatever I can to destroy you. Because I do not want you to solve this during the presidential election. By the way, they have been faithful to their promise and have done everything they can to destroy me.
Wow. So an avid Trump supporter threatened to destroy a Republican senator, James Lankford, for negotiating and attempting to pass one of the most right-wing border security bills in this nation's history. All because Daddy Trump doesn't want to do anything about the border so he can fearmonger about it and campaign on it in the 2024 presidential election. So we're gonna speculate in regard to who that person is, who's behind it. But the speech that you just heard from Lankford took place on the Senate floor today because the Senate attempted to pass the border security bill again today and failed to do so. Now, how many figures in conservative media have spoken out against the bill that Lankford helped to negotiate in recent weeks? I mean, like, we may never know for sure who it could be, but we can't speculate. So before I give you my speculation, John, what do you think? What do you think is behind this?
I mean, it could be literally any one of them. I mean, they've all been saying this. The hosts say this, the guests say this, those in the independent right-wing media say it. They've all been fear-mongering it, so it could be almost anyone. I will say, and I feel bad saying this because he's doing, I guess, us a service by revealing this. And there's an element of bravery, atypical bravery for a senator there. But he said, like he's giving his speech and he's like clutching his hands because he's nervous. Yep. And I'm looking at him thinking like he's saying that they're doing everything in their power to destroy him. He looks very destroyable. Like I feel like he's probably gonna be destroyed as a result of this. Donald Trump isn't gonna like it, but I'm glad that he's at least revealing what he is.
Well, just yesterday when we were covering the earlier stages of this whole debacle, it was kind of funny because Donald Trump went to conservative media and of course started trashing James Lankford and was like, oh, I didn't endorse Lankford in 2022 when he was running for re-election. Turns out he totally did.
He did.
He totally did. I mean, anyway, he's so petty. But let's talk about one very strong suspect. At least a strong suspect, if you ask me. Someone who didn't hold back in issuing some threats during her broadcast in regard to the possible passage of this border security bill. Let's watch.
There is zero good faith on the part of Democrats on the border. If they wanted to enforce the border, if Trump was an existential threat and they wanted to take an issue away from him, they would enforce the border. They don't give a rip because open borders is their policy, period, end of story. And any Republican trying to tell the American people anything different should be defeated and primaried. And I'm gonna personally make sure that I work toward that.
That was just one of the segments that Laura Ingraham's been doing in recent weeks where she's urging Republicans to avoid passing that border security bill. And it's very clear that it's because she wants to hand Donald Trump something to campaign on, something that might increase his chances of winning in the general election. And I think it's her. I think that's who he's referring to. I could be wrong.
I think it's probably her.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't especially care, but yeah, no, it definitely could be her. That seems like a strong possibility. I love that she's like, don't take the bait and pass this bill. It's been like totally written to give us everything we want. Their policy is open borders. Well, I guess if you don't pass the bill, maybe you can say their policy is open borders, but if you pass it, their policy is that policy, the right-wing policy that you're rejecting. But again, like it's a reminder. I understand that we're sitting at a desk. Can we go to the wide shot? This is Anna and it's me. It's two people. We're sitting at a desk. There's like all these monitors behind us. I'm even wearing a tie. It looks similar to what is on the news or whatever. It's not. It's not. If we were handed exactly the bill we want in an election year, but it would help the Republican president.
Could you imagine?
Would we be like, screw that? No, it's like they're gonna pass like the Green New Deal. And I'm like, it doesn't matter, their policy is zero non-carbon or whatever. No, I'd want it, we'd want it because we have actual principles and we want those applied to policy, but they don't. It's all a game. And it's an even pettier game than it seems. It should bother you if you're a conservative that they're not gonna pass this like super right-wing immigration bill, but it should bother you even more than perhaps you're already thinking. Because here's the thing, they're doing this for Trump, we all understand that. They're doing it for Trump because Trump is worried that if this passes, he won't be able to beat Biden, which by the way is like a show of total cowardice. He's supposed to be super confident against Biden, and he thinks them passing one border bill like 8 months before the election is gonna lose it for him. What a coward. But much more important than that, he wants to not pass the bill so he can fearmonger on the border. They could do that anyway, even if they pass the bill. What, they can't invent a caravan come October? They can't do that? They can't talk about some migrant somewhere in Wisconsin who murdered someone? They can't gin up fear over the border? They've done it every election for literally decades.
I've got to say, we're very critical of politicians on both sides of the political aisle. But I do believe that there's one area in which members of both parties really do shine, and it's the area of fear-mongering. They always find something to fear-monger about. So that is a really interesting point you just made, John, and I totally agree with you on that. No, but to me, this whole situation is yet another symptom of the rot in our politics, in Congress, in our political system. And what I mean by that is, things have devolved to where the worst people are incentivized to run for public office. And when I say worst people, I mean people who don't give a damn about the country. They don't give a damn about fixing a single problem in the country. All they see when they look at elected office is me, 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 me. How can I do this to enrich myself? How can I do this to accumulate power? And for Donald, I have no doubt that if Donald Trump weren't a part of this situation, they would pass this bill with no problem. I mean, I'm sure that there are literally Republican lawmakers right now who are like, God, this bill is so sweet. We've been asking for this, we've been wanting this, damn it, right?
Yeah.
Probably so frustrated. But they're also terrified of Trump, and they're terrified of Trump's base, so they're gonna do what daddy wants.
100%.
And it's just so terrible, guys, because look, I don't care about parties at all. I have issues with politicians on both sides, to be honest with you. My biggest concern is that Congress is so broken and it's filled with so many self-interested monsters that we're never gonna pass any legislation anymore. Instead, they just spend their days with nonsense hearings, right? Nonsense political theater, no interest in good faith negotiating with the other side of the aisle in order to come up with necessary solutions to represent the best interests of their constituents. I want a government that works, okay? And I get it. If you're on one side of the political aisle, yes, you need to negotiate, you need concessions. That is how politics works. That is how a democracy is supposed to work. But we're so far removed from that now. Everything is so broken.
Yeah, I mean, we expect that the Republicans, for instance, aren't gonna care much about Democrats or whatever, but they don't even pretend to really care about conservatives anymore.
No.
And by the way, I'm glad that you pointed out that the Republicans probably secretly, are wishing they could pass this, but because that I think really goes to a point that's been clear through the entirety of the Trump, control of the Republican Party. Everybody knows that Trump controls the Republican Party, but it isn't stressed enough how much his control of the Republican Party benefits only him and not the others. We've gone through the negative effect that he's had on the 2018 midterms, the 2020 election, the 2022 midterms. He's done what would help him and hurt the party. But think about this, you cannot pass this bill because then Joe Biden could campaign on it, okay? Do you know who else could campaign on it? All of the Republicans who pass it. All the Republican senators who vote for it, the Republican House members, some of whom are in tough races, could say, we delivered, and you know what? We didn't just deliver, we forced Biden to give us the most right-wing immigration bill in literally decades, since Reagan. We made it happen. But they can't do that because Trump is desperate for help.
No, and by the way, I want to clarify something. This bill is not something that Biden would campaign on, okay? Because think about Biden's constituents. Think about the progressive wing of the Democratic electorate that does not like this bill. They're actually elated that this bill didn't pass, right?
Yeah, because in the House voted against it, and some senators did.
Yeah, it's a right-wing bill. It is very, very harsh, and it's what Democrats have been fighting against for many, many decades.
Yeah.
And so what Biden wants is a solution at the border, because there is a crisis at the border, and it is hurting him politically. So he doesn't want to upset the progressive wing of the Democratic Party. So he's going to act like, oh, well, they're twisting my arm. I have no choice. Like, this is what they want to do. This is what Congress came up with. So it's not that Biden is going to run on it. It's that Trump wants to run on the crisis at the border. That's what Trump wants to run on.
It's insanity.
So they voted on the same bill again today, and it did not play out so well. The vote was 49 senators in favor, 50 senators against. Most Democrats voted for it, and most Republicans voted against it, with a few exceptions. So Senators Lisa Murkowski of Alaska, Susan Collins of Maine, Mitt Romney of Utah, and James Lankford of Oklahoma voted with Democrats to advance the bill. And because all the other Republicans in the Senate are united in their mission to appease Donald Trump, optically this appears as if, oh, well, all these Democrats voted in favor and all these Republicans voted against, because this is actually a very progressive border bill. Donald Trump has been lying about how it grants amnesty when it does not grant amnesty at all. And the optics of this are going to make it seem like Donald Trump is telling the truth, when if you read the legislation for yourself, there is literally nothing in there about amnesty.
Yeah, most of the Republicans who negotiated and wrote the bill voted against the bill. And also bear in mind, it's referred to as the border bill because that's the biggest single policy in it. But a lot of the Democrats, I'm sure, that are voting for that portion. Look, some secretly maybe are okay with that, but because of the other components of it, aid for Ukraine and other policies that are bundled together with it.
Now, in terms of the aid, Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer is very likely going to hold just a separate vote on just the foreign aid portion of the bill. The foreign aid bill includes $60.1 billion in military assistance for Ukraine, $14.1 billion in security assistance for Israel, and $10 billion in humanitarian aid for civilians of global crises, including Palestinians and Ukrainians. Wow.
Well, it's a symbolic bill because of course the Republicans are going to vote it down, which means they're going to be voting down security assistance to Israel, which obviously doesn't look good for them.
Right.
Yeah.
And finally, Donald Trump has been celebrating how much control he has over grown men and women in the United States Senate. And just yesterday he had posted this: "The Senate surrender our border bill is dead." Okay. All right.
What grammatically is going on with that sentence?
I mean, I have a lot of questions about what's going on with Trump and what he engages in, but here we are.
Thanks for watching. If you become a member, you get to watch all this ad-free, except for, of course, this ad. Still, hit the join button below.